I've got 6 o'clock. So. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Julius Felsberg. Councilman John Wiley.
Here.
Councilman Eric Beaver.
Here.
Councilman Richard Flanagan.
Here.
Councilman Justin Roy.
Present.
Finance Manager Dodie Arbogast. Police Chief Josh Thomas.
Here.
Fire Chief Kenny James.
Present.
Public Works Director Jacob Culver.
Present.
Building Inspector Brian Reed.
Present.
Sanitary Board Director Dee Evans.
Approval of regular session, January 8th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Commission reports. Planning Commission, we had our meeting at 4 o'clock today. The next one is on March 20th. Time to be determined. We'll make sure that gets put up on the Facebook page and try to get that out to everyone. We're going over and finalizing some rules that and of zoning that we had any questions about or needed any further education on. And that seems to be going rather smoothly, so everything seems to be treading along just fine. Historic Landmarks,
Nothing to report.
Arts Council, I guess no one's here. Fairs and Festivals,
Just throw something out there. I don't know if any of you have seen the calendar that has been put together as a bicentennial commemoration of Weston, but Kristen, how many, they're over at the municipal building, right?
$15.
The $15 a piece.
How many do we have left?
Ooh, there's not very many, to be honest
Okay,
with you.
yeah.
I'm thinking maybe 5 or 6, and they've ordered more.
Okay, we initially ordered 100, and really it's an excellent deal. Bruce Adler put it together, spent a lot of time and effort, and it's one of those things that really is a commemoration, something that I think is worthwhile for anybody who's a citizen of Weston to have as, you know, something to use this year, and also just to say, some of the pictures of looking at the city over, you know, since photography was available, just really are impressive, and it's neat to sort of compare the way it was and where we are now. So I would encourage everybody to give the municipal building a yell, and there's been more that have been ordered, so just to throw that out to everybody.
That is very nice. That calendar is really interesting to look through. It has everything from when Weston was founded to the lowest temperature ever recorded here to the highest temperature ever recorded here. Just everything. It's really neat. Parks and Rec. Nothing. Better Buildings.
We're supposed to have a meeting Wednesday. I'm not sure. I'll have to check with you a little bit. We're supposed to have a meeting, would be, I believe, here at 6 on Wednesday, but I'll double check.
What time?
6.
6?
Yeah.
URA. Lewis County Economic Development.
Nothing really new. Last week's meeting, they installed new officers. Of course, they're running a new system now with Cindy Wetzel running the show. Again, talked about the water line extensions and a couple things about Hampton Inn and Taco Bell coming in July. Other than that, not much news.
Thank you. Department heads, sanitary.
So I have my report in front of you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address those for you. Otherwise, I think everybody's in pretty self-explanatory.
communicated with the council throughout the last 2 to 3 weeks over the sales tax issue. I did want to go ahead and give you the rest of the information I have. So I had emailed Stacy Acree on Thursday, February 1st, and my email to her said that every December 2017 quarter/month-end sales tax form that was mailed out by the state contained the message about Weston started the sales tax. If not, how was it determined which businesses did? And her response, I got back the next day, said, yes, these were mass mailed. So what it was is, this is a paper sales tax return. There are paper sales tax returns, and then larger businesses file electronically. But on the paper sales tax return, this is the West Virginia sales and use tax return, and where it's highlighted in yellow, this is a copy, but the actual original return is in red, and says, effective January 1st, 2018, the towns of Wayne and Weston will impose a municipal sales and use tax of 1%, and the town of Whitehall will impose a tax of 0.5%. The electronic version I verified with one of the outside corporate restaurants because I was curious what they got. And theirs was an electronic message when they went online to file their tax return for the quarter or month. Then they got an electronic message that said the same thing. This is for information only, so that every business that pays sales tax in the state of West Virginia and files a sales tax return with West Virginia receive that message. And it's important because in trying to be proactive, I prepared a letter actually for the accounts payable department of the hospital to send out to all their vendors. But those vendors would have received this also. So every vendor that already pays sales tax to West Virginia was notified that Weston, Wayne, and Whitehall all now have a sales tax, just so they can comply with the new law. It doesn't tell them they have to charge the sales tax. It just says these towns now have sales tax. Every business is responsible for being knowledgeable of the sales tax laws in the jurisdictions where they do business. And I had several companies call me back in December and early January, late December, asking me if their businesses were in city limits. None of them were. And that's what I told them. Some of the ones that did, and you guys have heard that because I sent you the information. There were a total of 8 businesses that were charging sales tax outside of city limits that shouldn't have been. I notified all of them. Some of them I talked to their corporate headquarters. But I also made a list of all of those businesses and emailed it to Stacy Acree at the tax department so they can formally notify those businesses. Because some of them weren't really sure. The problem lies in companies like a restaurant maybe that delivers. And if they deliver in the city limits, they have to charge sales tax. Well, one of them said we can't make our register do both. We can't charge 6 and 7%, so we're just charging everybody 7. And I said, we can't do that. She said, we have to, or we can't charge, we charge just 6 or we just charge 7. So I gave her Stacy's contact information and put her to deal with it with the state tax department because it's not something that you have a choice with. And then the other thing I did is I just tried to think of businesses outside of Weston, like for example, Lowe's, who may deliver appliances in Weston or may install carpet in Weston. They have to collect the 1%. They don't pay it to Clarksburg, they pay it to Weston. And they didn't know that, and they didn't really believe me at first, and I sent them all the information. Rental Center, Aaron's Furniture, Home Depot, all those places were contacted because I want to make sure that we get a jump start on getting up. I would go to Weston with that sales tax in Clarksburg. We shouldn't have been charging it for Clarksburg anyway. So that's where we stand on that. And if anybody at all ever goes to a business and they're charging the 7%, they're outside city limits, which the problem seems to be from the west side of KFC out. KFC is charging 6% now, but once you go east on 33, any of those businesses, if you run across one that's still charging 7%, you can either tell them which one they did, notify the state tax department, or you can let me know. I will relay that information to the state tax department, and then they can get on the ball and do it. That's the only way I know. If it hadn't been in the paper a few weeks ago in the Foxborough paper, I wouldn't have known about the first restaurant, and then got word of the second one, and then people were more free. I was getting phone calls then from people, and that really helped tremendously. So it's really, one of the questions I asked Stacy was, does everybody have this problem? And she said, and then she wrote back and said, yes. The first few months are very confusing and very full of these types of errors. So that's not uncommon at all. But the other thing, I would like to make sure that we're getting it right, that we're getting what we're entitled to and not, I don't think we'll get what we're not entitled to. I think because the state tax department has all of the 4+ zip codes for the city of Weston, I know we were not getting sales tax from any business outside the city. But I did request, once we get our sales tax payment in April, which will be anywhere from the 15th to the 30th of April, I will be able to request from the state tax department a detail of every business and how much sales tax they submitted. So that will help with making sure that those who should are and those who aren't should, or those who should aren't.
Thank you, Jody. Chief Thomas, please. Public Works.
Yeah, I have my monthly report. There is another thing that I wanted to address with council. West Virginia LTAP, who is the program that we use for the backhoe training course and the plow school, is putting on, or attempting to put on, a chainsaw safety course, training course. They contacted me to see if we would have any interest, and also if we would have a possible site for them to use to hold the course on. After talking with Kristen, we figured that we did have a site that they could use if they were interested in it. And I asked them if possible, if it's $100 a person for the class, if possible, if they would use our site, if we could send 2 for 1 for the $100. That's up in the air right now. Basically, what I would be asking, even if they don't choose our site, I would like approval to send 2 of the guys to the chainsaw course. At
You
$100
besides
a
yourself,
piece.
or you and someone else?
No, the 2 guys that I trust the most with the chainsaws are the ones that I want to do. I've got 2 guys that pretty much run the chainsaws all the time now. Those would be the 2 I want to do.
Okay. What's the date tonight?
It's up in the air right now. It's not even, they're not even sure they're gonna have enough participation because it'll be us and surrounding counties. So they were talking about mid-April if they can get enough participation from the surrounding counties.
Would you need a vote before then, or?
Let's just take it up right now. I think in the interest of safety, it's worthwhile to make certain that people who are responsible for taking care of these issues and chainsaws, et cetera, have appropriate training. So I think it's money well spent. So I would make a motion that we support 2 members of the municipal works to attend that course and be properly trained.
Is there a second?
2 up to 4 if they have it for you. You want to send 4 if they agree to your terms, I'll send 2 for 1.
I don't think they would do that. I could talk to them about it, but I don't think they would.
Okay. Well, then we get 2 of them.
Is that a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Anything else?
That would be it.
Kenny?
You have my report if you have any questions. I'll be glad to answer them if I can. The one thing that I'd like to say, or to inform council, I know that today the county commission got their letter from the Lewis County Firefighters Association stating some things that the county fire departments would no longer be doing as far as light or non-threatening emergencies and cutting back on some of those things. If there's any confusion when the paper comes out or whatever you may hear, no services will be cut within the city. That'll be as is, as has been. But on the county side, they have decided to cut back on some things. Gas leaks, smell of gas, trees down, things of that nature. But none of those services will be cut inside the city. So just to make certain you guys don't get excited if they misquote or misread something, we're as is.
Did everyone hear that? Okay. Thank you, Kenny. Brian?
demolition is progressing with the Village building. I'd say probably a week or so, it'll be completely done. They're doing it by hand to preserve the integrity of the building that's right beside it. Other than that, that's pretty well what's going on.
Do I have a motion to accept the department head reports?
Make a motion to accept the department head reports as submitted.
I'll second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Alright, at this time I'd like to shift something around a little bit. We have a special presentation that we would like to do for a resolution for Purple Heart City. And Mr. Benny Shefflin is here. Kristen, would you like to read the proclamation?
I think they have.
No. Okay.
The actual proclamation.
I can if you want me to.
Who am I supposed to present this to?
Present it to him.
Yeah.
He's our mayor tonight.
Okay. Thank you very much for your service, sir. The state of West Virginia, county of Lewis, city of Weston, proclamation, whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest decoration in present use and was initially created as a badge of military merit by General George Washington in 1782. And whereas the Purple Heart was the first American Service Award or decoration made available to the common soldier and is specifically awarded to any member of the United States Armed Services wounded or killed in combat with a declared enemy of the United States. And whereas the mission of the Military Order of Purple Heart, chartered by and as of Congress, it is to foster an environment of goodwill among combat wounded veterans, members of their families, promote patriotism, support legislative initiatives, and most importantly, make sure we never forget. And whereas the city of Weston residents have been engaged in every war against the declared enemy fought by the United States, including the war for the nation's independence. And whereas the city of Weston has a large number of residents who have been awarded the Purple Heart Medal for wounds received in combat. And whereas the city of Weston recognizes the commitment and increasing sacrifices required of military families. And whereas the city of Weston pledges its ongoing commitment and support for the men and women who so honorably serve our nation. Now, therefore, be proclaimed that the city of Weston Common Council hereby declares the city of Weston as a Purple Heart City in the state of West Virginia, adopted the 5th day of February 2018. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Oh, that's about it.
You
I started this about 2 years ago. Just getting it going.
Thank you very much, sir.
How much fun was that? Shiflet. Yes, I enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
All right, as we go back to regular business, Polk Creek Bridge update.
Did everybody get a chance to see the agreement with the DOH? I had emailed it in. Is there any questions or, there was quite a few of us in the office that read through it, make sure there was no corrections, which of course on the first page there was, which was zip code, but all we need is approval to sign it and we'll get it sent in to them.
That's the only thing I saw was the zip code, so. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the
Approval of the Department of Highways agreement.
Are we allowed, yeah, are we allowed to know what they said about the bridge?
It's a 80-20 split. We pay 20% and they do the rest.
The Department of Highways now is in control, they will take control of the construction, so it's a design and build bridge. So they actually will find the contractor to build, they'll have the contractor to design the bridge, build the bridge, and they'll fund it at 80%. We have to pay $20,000 down with the contract that we're submitting, and then they will bill us as the construction continues when they reach that. I don't know what increments it'll be, but they'll bill us as it goes through the construction process.
Do you know when that's going to start?
I don't. I'm really kind of pushy, so I've been pushy kind of to let them know that we really want it done before summer's over. But I have no control over that. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful and optimistic.
Question. Has any agreement been reached about the detour road? This one, is that still on the table?
We've evaluated different, we've tried to find different routes that would be, honestly, the most efficient and the least expensive. But it seems like the most reasonable route is going to be the one that takes, that goes up by the street department and will cut through behind Weatherford and come out on the bottom of Mid Avenue. Which the only problem with that, the biggest problem with that is because of the pedestrians. But I'm not, there's just no way to, and at some point they have to cross Polk Creek, you know?
I knew there was a problem with, I think one of the companies along there that didn't want to grant access. Has that been resolved yet?
Well, that's the one, it was Weatherford, it wasn't that they didn't want to grant access, it's just that their corporate offices are in Texas.
Okay.
And we weren't getting a response. And so we can go behind and beside their property, and like I said, an access on Mid Avenue. And really the reason we need to create a road like that is because there is a business in that community that has large trucks, and we have to try to accommodate that.
Do we also get the easement or the understanding with Dr. Snuffer?
We have a verbal agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, once we have, get it closer to the timeframe,
Yes.
then we will actually have a written agreement with him. We will lease that right away from him during the construction process, from the time the bridge is closed until the new bridge is reopened.
Okay. But we have a verbal understanding there.
Yes.
Okay.
Randy, did you have a question?
Do you still have the plans that were originally done, do you still have those on file that the state and you all had an agreement on a few years back, 80-20? Do you still have those plans on file that what they designed to put in there?
Yes, but that's the one where the price of steel that was in their original agreement, the prices went up, stuff like that, so it's gonna be a little bit more costly than what was proposed back in April or May of 2015.
If they had, their spec on that had interstate concrete running across it, whereas you could possibly pave it and save probably $30,000-$40,000.
Like
I
I
don't
said,
know if you're aware of all that went on or not. That was before you all were here.
the Department of Highways, though, is going to construct the bridge. We won't have any input into what materials they use or what contractor they use.
Originally, that was the in-kind agreement. The city was to pave it, do the easements, and that would be their 20%.
I know the same engineers that's looking at the bridges and same engineers that's currently involved in that.
Same ones that's not there now.
Well, actually, we do have the same, we've been dealing with the same people.
Yep. Same group, same engineer.
Hooten's not there any longer. Ron Hooten isn't even there anymore.
No, like some of the other engineers was involved. Chad Warren was one of them.
Yeah,
Mackenzie
that's who the
Murphy.
agreement was through, was Ron Hooten. He's no longer there.
Right.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
Do you have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the approval of the Department of Army Highways agreement for the Oak Creek Bridge update.
we'll be sending that agreement out this week with the initial payment.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Second reading to implement fingerprinting charge. Do I have a motion to read by title only?
Make a motion to read by title only.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Kristen?
There is hereby levied and imposed on all persons, except children under the age of 18 years, requesting fingerprinting by the city police department, a $10 fee for all fingerprinting.
Any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. That's where you could fingerprint everybody in town?
What's your question, sir?
That's over 18?
No, sir. Like right now, Slumberjay they're going through, they're hiring people daily right now. And so they're sending, the other day I was in there, they sent 12 people to us at once to get fingerprinted for background checks for employment.
Yeah.
It's the charge a fee for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you get arrested, it's free.
Well, that could very well happen.
Just so you know, that won't change. They won't charge you.
Your tax dollars at work.
Only the working man gets charged.
Do I have a motion?
Yeah, make a motion to approve the,
Need a motion?
implement the fingerprint charge as so discussed.
Yeah, so if you get arrested, it's free.
Well, that could very well happen.
Just so you know, that won't change. They won't charge you.
Your tax dollars at work.
Only the working man gets charged.
Do I have a motion?
Yeah, make a motion to approve the,
Need a motion?
implement the fingerprint charge as so discussed.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Adopt 2015 International Building Codes.
Okay, this would basically put it so that we mirror what the state of West Virginia building codes are. It would just be an amendment to what we already have on the books.
I make a motion that we adopt the 2015 International Building Codes.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Up next is a proclamation for Cardiac Rehabilitation Week. Kristen, would you like to read it?
Proclamation for Cardiac Rehabilitation Week. Whereas the American Association of Cardiovascular and Pulmonary Rehabilitation is observing National Cardiac Rehabilitation Week, February 11th through the 17th, 2018, with the theme Going Beyond the Beat. And whereas coronary heart disease is the leading cause of death in our nation, and hundreds of people in Weston, West Virginia are affected by coronary heart disease, and whereas observation of AACVPR National Cardiac Rehabilitation Week calls special attention to the dedicated professionals who promote the dissemination of information about coronary heart disease, its prevention and rehabilitation, and whereas the dedicated cardiovascular specialists of West Virginia and the strides made to conquer coronary heart disease are deserving of great recognition. Therefore, in resolution, this isn't me, but I, Julia Spelsberg, Mayor of Weston, West Virginia, do hereby proclaim February 11 through 17, 2018,
as AACVPR National Cardiac Rehabilitation Week in Weston, West Virginia. I urge all citizens to take a healthy and sound approach to caring for their well-being and to join forces to battle of the nation's leading killers. Given under my hand and the seal of West Virginia, Weston, West Virginia, this 5th day of February in the year 2018.
Motion?
Make a motion to accept the proclamation for Cardiac Rehabilitation Week.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have the presentation of the Purple Heart City resolution, and thank you, sir. This is just to make it official. Motion for that, please.
Motion to approve resolution for Purple Heart, City of West participate.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Miss Judy, you have the floor.
Well, you have my report, I hope.
Yes.
I hope you do. Couple little things I want to add to that, just to give you a quick update. We put out our team applications about 10 days to 2 weeks ago. It's pretty early. We have 20 teams from 9 states. We have 75 judges, a little over 75 judges already registered from 13 states, including new states to us, Illinois, Wisconsin, Colorado, and California. So we'll definitely have some people coming into town for this. The one thing I forgot to add in here when I asked for your support was, and you did this last year, we don't need it today, but you'd need a motion at some point, is just a letter authorizing us, and Kristen did last year on the alcoholic beverage thing for our beer garden. It just says that you have no problem, you know where it's at, and that kind of thing. Jacob has our welcome banner. We thank you for storing that and get that back up. And the other thing basically was, hopefully we can work out something on the vendor permits, kind of getting them under one umbrella so we don't run into some of the issues we had last year. Does that make sense, the letter you have? You understand where I'm looking at? I don't know how you want to handle that in the way of a motion, or if you don't want a motion. But that's what we're hoping will make things a little clearer. If you get permit requests, bring them to us, and we'll be glad to give you all the information you want of everything. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Any questions? Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
So I believe that takes us to the first reading of the amended municipal fee ordinance.
Make a motion that the first reading of the amended municipal fee ordinance be provided by title only.
Do I have a second?
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance amending Article 5, Chapter 11, Section 3, imposition of municipal service fee.
Questions among council? Okay. Next is the first reading of the amended business and occupation privilege tax ordinance.
We need a motion to approve that.
Okay.
Something.
Well,
I make a motion to
Make a
approve the
motion.
first reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now the first reading of the amended business and occupation privilege tax ordinance.
Make a motion for the first reading of amended B&O privilege tax ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance of the City of Weston, West Virginia, amending Chapter 27 of the Code of the City of Weston to amend Article 4, Business Privilege or Gross Sales Tax of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Weston, West Virginia, 1972, as amended by amending and reenacting Article 4, Section 27-39, furnishing property for hire, lease, etc.
Questions among council? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve first reading of the amended business occupational privilege tax ordinance.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next is a public hearing to abandon River Drive alley located between Lyden Avenue and Winter Avenue.
I have been working with the residents of 12 Linden Avenue for quite some time now. What it is there's an alleyway that runs behind their home, another home, and then there's an older lady as well. The older lady has come in and spoke with me. She doesn't really want any part of this alleyway. She doesn't want to have to worry about the upkeep, nothing. The residents of 12 Linden would like to take the responsibility of the alleyway. Me and Brian went and checked it out. It doesn't look like there was really ever an alleyway there. There's huge trees running through it. We've never maintained it, so it's pretty much, we can abandon or start taking care of it.
How do you modify the property deeds that would reflect, and who would be essentially receiving that property?
How it works is, I have already notified the property owners that will be affected by this alleyway. The residents of 12 Linden are here. The house next to them was, when all this was going on, it was listed under the West Virginia Housing Development Authority. They were notified of this, and then the other lady that lives on up the road was notified as well. And she came in with a notarized letter stating that she does not want this alleyway, that the residents of 12 Linden can have it.
That's fine.
So, and that was the only properties that are affected.
I just want to make certain that there wasn't to be a lack of awareness. This may change their tax structure in some way, and
Right.
so, yeah, just so that's.
Any other questions?
You got a copy of those two ordinances that you read in, just,
I can get you a copy if you'd like to.
I would definitely like it.
Do I have a motion to approve the abandonment of River Drive?
Make a motion to approve the abandonment of River Drive Alley, as described by Kristen, and also with the recipients identified.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have, who's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Open forum, do you have the sheet, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay.
Mr. Jordan.
Thank you.
Hello, Joe.
I just came to remind you people that another year has passed, and I'm still blessed with those dumpsters out in front of the building over here. We're getting ready to open, well, the end of March, 1st of April, and we're gonna clean up our side. I thought it'd be nice if you guys clean up your side. You know, that way everything will be pretty when the people come to town. And another thing is those ordinances that you just enacted without reading them. You know, are you gonna advertise those anywhere, or?
That was just the first reading. We'll have another public hearing and I believe 2 more readings. So
Yeah,
they'll be
are
made
you gonna
public.
publish what it is?
Yeah, Joe, those were in the Democrat week before last.
They'll be in the
There was a
Democrat?
story about those ordinances in the Democrat.
I'm sorry.
Both of those ordinances were described, I did a story, it was on the front page, I believe, of the Democrat. Yes, it was on the front page of last week's Democrat,
I didn't see it.
about those two, they'll
Yeah,
talk.
they were publicly, yes, sir.
Well, you've got a copy of they had the ordinance in the paper?
No,
They did a
Description of the
story.
ordinance, just put it in layman's terms.
Interpretation.
Yeah, so I can understand.
yeah.
Well, me too.
But
No,
there's
I
copies,
saw
there's
the
copies
copy.
available. So if you want a copy,
But
we'll
if
get
you,
one.
that's both of them?
That's just the one.
That's just the one.
There was just this extra copy of that one laying right here.
I'll stop and get the other
Yep.
copy.
Yes, stop and see me.
But I'd really appreciate it if you give those dumpsters a little more consideration, because it surely be nice if it looked good.
Joe, I agree, and as I
For
mentioned to you,
opening
I
day.
did pursue that and discussed with the council and people in this building as to where we could relocate those. One suggestion was to put them over on where the municipal garage is or something of this nature, because I agree with you. They're an eyesore for people coming into our community, and we don't need to have a dumpster right where it's located, so. yes,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Thank you.
If you put them at the municipal building, where the street department, is that where you're talking?
Well, I'm talking about the garage.
Garage on Fourth Street.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not,
that's
that'd
gonna
just be-
put more traffic on your bridge down there.
well, I'm not worried about that right now. I'm more concerned about, the bridge is gonna be replaced, but we do need to find, in answer to Mr. Jordan's problem, I think that something needs to be done about that.
If you could
Willie?
move,
Yes, sir.
out from in front of the building, I'd appreciate it if you just didn't move across the road.
Yes, Joe, that's moving an eyesore from one location to another.
Is that all, sir?
That's it, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sue Bush.
Yes, I just have a question. A few weeks ago, it was in the Democrat that Mr. Flanagan, I'm glad you're here this evening, but said that he'd only missed 2 meetings in last year. And I have copies of the minutes, and I don't think that's correct.
I don't remember ever specifying how many I missed or not, I don't know.
Okay, well, I just feel that the people in Ward 3 are not being represented properly. I mean, they can't get a hold of you by phone, and you're not at the meetings half the time. So I just don't feel like they're being, treated fairly.
Well, January is I screwed up. I thought it was a date, the holiday, we was gonna have a meeting the following week, and I messed up on January.
Okay, well, I hope it'll improve.
All right.
Thank you.
Linda Bush.
Well, Josh, I don't know who to direct my question to. Once again, I've lived on my address since 1980. Never had any problems. Went to bed with the doors unlocked. Within the last 4 months, I've had 3 prowlers. I've had to have the police there. Last Saturday night, the prowler was on the porch. Your policeman pulled up. I went out on the porch. All he did was roll the window down and said, "What's your problem?" I said, told him what was going on. "Just go back in the house and lock your door. I'll go around the block and see if I can find him." So anyways, my daughter and her husband and family were coming in from Allen Bridge. I was talking to them. They came in my neighborhood, found the prowler across from Dr. Wiley's house, sitting on those old women's porch. So they stayed there with him and had me to call your officers back. What kind of laws? They said they couldn't do nothing because he wasn't public intoxicated. He wasn't drinking. He was on something, but he definitely wasn't drinking. He said, "I can't charge you." So if I put a no trespassing sign on my property, your officer said I could take charges against him.
That would be one avenue, yes, that you could approach, yes. that would
But
be
I
one.
hate to do that. I mean, who in the city wants to plaster no trespassing signs on their homes? I mean, I don't know what to do. He said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, that's the only law we have is public intox." He said, "The gentleman isn't drinking." It was a young kid. He said, "He's not drinking, he's definitely on something," because when he come up on my porch, I turned the light on, and he just stood there and continued, bend down, looking in the window, and had an item in his hand like he was gonna break in my house. I had just got in my house. He watched me. Because the first time I came in, it was about, I couldn't find him, so I wouldn't get out of my car. So I'd go back around the block to see if I could see him. And in the meantime, couldn't find him no place. Pulled back in front of my house and hurry up and got out, ran in, locked the doors, walked in the house long enough to use the bathroom. When I walked back out in the living room, right there he was. He had come around the side of my house. And I thought, I was talking to her on the phone. I told her, I said, "Oh my God, he's coming on my porch." And so anyways, what are we supposed to do? I mean, if your all's hands are tied,
There may be an ordinance that addresses that, I would have to look to be 100%
would you
certain.
please?
But in that instance, it would just be a citation.
Have we identified the individual? Do we know?
Yeah,
Okay,
they come
yeah.
back to my house
Yes, ma'am.
and told me, said, we can't arrest him. He's definitely on something. He is not drinking alcohol. But
But he was identified in terms of
Exactly.
name,
Exactly.
location.
And, I mean, I was in Buchanan, the first one, Christmas shopping, and a neighbor called and said there was a lady on my porch going through my mail. And so, I mean, Josh knows the area I live, and I think it's getting a little worse, don't you think, Josh? Yeah. And so I just wonder what I can do. I mean, I worked hard for that property. At one time, I worked 3 jobs, and there's no little snot-nosed kid on drugs coming and breaking in my house and getting by with it. I mean, I'm sorry. I know they need help, and I know his hands are probably tied. So I don't know if it's up to you all to make an ordinance, because you know the drugs are getting more and more, and there's nothing that they can do. And I appreciate the officers coming to tell me, you know, I'm sorry, we can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'll check on that. There may be an ordinance on, you know, the old prowling, but again, it would just be a citation. We would cite them and release them. It would not be a jailable offense.
Well, I mean, in other words, also, your officer told me, he said, you have the right to protect yourself.
In your own home, yes, you absolutely do.
Right. So that means if they would break into my house, and if I have to shoot them, am I protected? I mean, you know.
There's not, I mean, there's too many variables to that question. What I will say is that West Virginia does have what's the castle doctrine. You have the right to protect yourself in your own home. You can protect yourself or someone else in West Virginia. You can't use any type of force to protect property. Okay, but you can use force to protect yourself.
Well, that's what I said. I mean, the guy obviously was on something, because it didn't faze him because I turned that porch light on. Any normal person would have thought, wow, you know. And like the second prowler I had, when I walked out on the porch and he was standing there, I mean, sure, it scared me. And I immediately said, hey, and he said, huh, before he took off up the street. I mean, you know. I would appreciate it if you would check into that, because I will not put up with that.
Yeah, the other thing I'll do is I'll notify night shift to increase patrol in your neighborhood.
I'll talk to you after the meeting, because I got another one to tell you about. She didn't make it on my porch. All right, thanks, Josh.
Mr. Bowen.
Hello, how are you all?
Good.
First thing, before I get too far into this, I'm gonna be talking about an alleyway that I have beside a house in Shady Brook. But in reference to the 1% and the explanation about the mistakes, it's totally disingenuous to portray your business people in this county and your business people in this city as being that dumb and that naive that we would not know. We get those tax papers in the mail every month. They say the same thing. They have the same red things across the top. It's nothing different than what we get every month. For 28 years I've got those things. I didn't run out and have all my cash registers recalibrated and spent thousands of dollars and collected money off of unsuspecting citizens. So it's disingenuous to portray your business people as being that dumb and that naive, and I'll leave that at that.
Okay, no, you're not.
I got my time, just excuse me.
No, you're not going
No,
to stand up
I'll
and
let
make
you
an
answer when I'm
accusation.
done. What I would like to speak about on Shady
No.
Drive,
Excuse me.
no,
We're not
I'd like
going
to
to
speak
continue
about
with
on
a different
Shady
topic.
Drive, will be that I've spoken with the council, I've spoken with City Hall, and I've been trying for 3 months to get an answer on Shady Drive, and I have been told that there's no alley running beside my property. So I've let it go for 3 months. I've got an email stating that that alley does not go by my house. Well, it took me 5 minutes to find it. I can show you all whatever you need to do, but I'm thinking about putting a business back in behind here, and I'm just wanting to know, if I do that, are you all going to be able to upgrade the road back in behind this property? Because there's an alleyway runs behind it as well as beside it. So that's my question, being that. And being that I'll be a business back in there and I'll be paying this 1%, what are we going to get back for that 1%? Are we going to get the bridge? Are we going to get the equipment for Brian to do the roads? Are we going to get these things? We got a shortcoming on equipment. It was stated in the paper that there was plows and trucks and they had to be worked on. I don't know if that meant they wasn't functional or if that just meant they was partially functional. So I'm hoping that we can get all these things taken care of, get the streets clean, get the bridges built, and do the things that we need to do, and we spend all of our time covering up the mistakes that we make rather than taking care of the problems that we got. And it's just like Region 7. Are we going to be able to get any money? If there is money available, can we get it? Will the mayor go to the meeting? She's been to 2 meetings in 7 years. Is she going to go to these meetings and work for the citizens and the businesses to get our money, or is she going to tell the citizens to sit down and be quiet and run for office if she don't like what we say publicly? Get in the newspaper and make a public statement like that. It's ridiculous.
You're making a political statement now.
Wait,
No,
let me
I will
finish.
not excuse
I'm going to
you.
ask you for
You're
an
making
answer,
a political
and I would like for
statement
you all to
undermine
answer
and
my
try to
questions
insult
that I posed to you
members of the
during this meeting
Weston
rather than then going to the next order of
municipality.
business.
You complain
So my
about
3
things all
minutes
the
are up,
time.
so I thank you for your
Randy,
time, and I hope
asked
that
you
you'll
one
answer
time
my
for your help.
questions and not ridicule me again and make fun of my hearing, make fun of the way I present myself. I don't want that to happen.
In this community, your response was, "Oh, I'm busy doing something with cars that day." I'd
Yeah,
like
I
to
said
see
I
you
wasn't
actually
busy.
roll up your sleeves and do some work and help some of the other people who volunteer. The Riffles working on parks, taking care of kids, doing things like that. If you respect this community, and you want to be respected in this community, then why don't you demonstrate a willingness to roll up your sleeves and work, as opposed to the continued complaints and insults that you spew out to members of the people who are willing to offer their time and efforts. That's what I like to see from you, Mr. Bowen. Thank you.
Can I ask you about the URA meetings
No.
that I go to?
No,
the
it's my
better
turn
business
now.
meetings that I go to, and you all tell me to
Your
sit
3
down and be
minutes is
quiet?
up. Your 3 minutes is up.
I don't know
I'm
that
gonna
you're the
respond.
sergeant at arms here today, sir.
I'm going to respond.
Excuse me? I said, I don't think that he'd be the sergeant of arms. You're the one that controls the meeting.
I'm going to respond to the accusations of us being, whatever the word was, to blame businesses for not being smart enough to know whether or not they should or should not collect sales tax. I personally spoke with these businesses, and the information came down from corporate, period. I have nothing to cover up because I have facts, and I don't have to lie to try to hide anything. I spoke to the manager of Pizza Hut, and I said, did you get, like, how did it happen with you guys? And she said, when I went on, this was corporate, mind you, this is Pizza Hut corporate in their tax office. She said, I went online to file our tax return for December, and there was an electronic message that popped up that told us that Weston now had a 1% sales tax. And she said, I contacted our real estate division, and they told me that yes, we were in the city limits, and therefore we needed to charge the 1% sales tax. I have nothing to hide, and I think it is absolutely middle schoolish for any adult to behave in such an accusatory way with just making up BS, and that's all it is. I care about integrity. Some people don't, but I do. And if anybody ever has questions, you can call the city building if you ever have questions. And I've seen some of the crap that gets posted by people. I have never, you can ask Kristen or anybody at the city building, if you come in and you want an answer, or you have a question, if you call, you'll get to talk to somebody. And he was offered the opportunity to talk to me about the B&O tax, and he said, no, I don't want to talk to her, and he hung up. Yet he's made accusatory lies about me throwing Stacey Avery under the bus. You know, I state the facts. I state the facts, period. I didn't throw anybody under the bus. I have a tremendous amount of respect for her. And I did not say in any newspaper, to any newspaper reporter, that the state tax department erroneously notified businesses. So when you get to the point that you have to start making up lies or look bad, it just is concrete evidence that you have absolutely no integrity and no maturity and no desire to be a good community citizen. And as far as Region 7, you don't go to Region 7 meetings to get things done. You get on the phone with Shane Whitehair. You have meetings with Shane Whitehair, which we have done. I met with Shane Whitehair in person about the bridge. The only grant that he had available was the Off-Systems Bridge Program, which is the one that we were already, at that point, I'd already sent a letter, talked to the Department of Highways, had already sent a letter of intent to the Department of Highways, and we already had the ball rolling. The things Shane did help me with is that there are some grants that are going to be available next year for sidewalks. So we will be doing that, but you don't get things done by waiting and going to monthly or quarterly or whatever those meetings are. You pick up the phone and you call people and you ask them, tell them what your needs are, introduce yourself, and you ask them what's available, because they know and they can talk to you, not in a room full of 23 other cities and the city managers, but actually on the phone when they have time to give you information. So we do actively work with Region 7, and it's not that accomplishment is not reflected in going to meetings. Just like this isn't the only work we do all the time is come to these meetings. There's a lot of things that are done otherwise. So I want to set the record straight. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to contact us. I would love to talk to you. And if you hear of any businesses outside of the city limits that are charging an extra 1% sales tax, please let me know. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Josh, anyone else?
That's it, sir.
All right, board reports, Ward 1.
I'd like to say to Jake that I'm tired of being awakened at 2 o'clock in the morning by a plow going up and down my street. But if he's got guys who are willing to come out and keep our roads clean so we can get to work in the morning, then it sounds fine by me. I'd like to say thank you for you and your crew, because they're out at all hours of the day and night so that we can get to our jobs, the school buses can take the kids to school. So I appreciate that. Sometimes it's overlooked, but I'm not out on the road at 3 a.m. in the morning plowing, but they are. So, Jake, thank you. Appreciate it. That's all I got to say.
Ward 2.
I'd like to thank, Dee's still here. I'd like to thank Dee and, Brock and some of the other, field techs that actually went out on West 2nd Street and tried to address some issues with frozen lines that we had going up in some businesses and stuff. So, they addressed it, but they did a very professional job, doing so. I worked with Jake, we had some, radios for the street department vehicles, some of the equipment, stuff like that, so, got some of them donated, so it worked out pretty good. And we're going to get 3 more.
Yes.
Get 3 more done and stuff. I'd like to thank the fire department for their hard work, still out here running calls and stuff during cold weather. Seen a little bit of decline here in fires, which has been good. Police department, I've seen them out quite a bit, patrolling and stuff, so, and then Jake and them, of course, have been plowing, cleaning, and doing all kinds of stuff, so just like to thank everybody.
Ward 3.
Eric, you summed it all up.
Okay. I would also like to thank the street department. You guys do a good job. I am up at 4 a.m. in the morning, driving to work, and I occasionally bump into one of the guys doing their job, and I appreciate it. And my dad was once a street commissioner in the city of Weston, and I understand what it's like to have that job. So I appreciate everything that you all do. And I still am going to get that tub of hot chocolate out to you. As far as police and fire, I appreciate you guys. You do a wonderful job. And listen, it's winter. Still, please keep an eye on your neighbors. If you don't see the normal activity that you usually do, pick up the phone, call them, see if they need anything. If you're going out to the store, don't be afraid to shovel the sidewalk if you're able to. I do it for mine. I have done it for 30-some years. Love my neighbors, and that's all I really have to say. So, do I have Okay.
Randy, for your alleyway for Shady Drive, back in December when we first talked about it, I asked you to stop in and talk to me because I apparently was on the wrong end of the street looking, but you never came. So I need you to come in and show me on the maps. I will bring them up, and you show me what it is that you're wanting done.
I'll email you what I got it all highlighted and outlined.
That's fine. Like I said, I don't live down there. I don't know the little alleyways and stuff, but I needed you to come in to show me what it was you wanted done. So I don't want you to think I just wasn't doing it.
Okay.
I just didn't have the right info, but if you have it, feel free to send it to me.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
You second that?
Is there anyone here from the Democrat or another local newspaper? No?